The next presentation is from the Keys Property Owners Association on revitalization and restoration planning and design for the Clearlake Keys. And Angela, do you want to introduce the team? I know there's a few folks here from the POA. I'm not sure who's presenting though.
I'm actually presenting for them, and I believe we have all of the program or the proposal contacts on here. So I can share my screen for this, and then I believe they're here. Yeah, so we have Christopher DiVittorio from Highcrest Research Corporation, Ed Legan, he's the Clearlake Keys president, the Property Owners Association president right now, and Donna Makowitz, a Clearlake Key resident who's very active in the community at the Keys down there. So I just want to make sure all you guys are on, and then I'll start the presentation. Yeah, okay, I see you guys. Okay, great. Okay. So this is the revitalization, restoration for planning, design, and implementation for Clearlake Keys. And just to clarify, I am just presenting today for the Keys. Water Resources, we aren't going to be managing this project, but we are providing technical assistance and support however we can. And one of the ways that we'll do that is through presenting here and then guiding and helping the Keys in any way they need that we can in our capacity. So this is a planning, concept, design, permitting, implementation proposal. We want to increase quality, quantity of wetland and open water habitat within 5.2 miles of the Keys channels. And that includes 1.2 miles of state-owned and county entrusted channels. And we want to bring positive economic, ecological impacts to about the 942 property owners that live in this Clearlake Oaks area. And we're going to do this through a dredging, invasive plant removal, native plant restoration, and sediment capture device installation project. And we do have partners on this project. This is a dynamic moving project. Today I'm presenting on one slice, one little piece of the puzzle, and there's a bunch of other pieces that all are going to form together to make this larger project happen. But these are some of the partners and supporters on this project. So we're here, Clearlake, this fuzzy map, and Clearlake Oaks is this area outlined in the white box. And this is the Keys. This is what we're talking about, this channel system here. Some historical context briefly. So the Keys were built in about the 1960s, and they were built right on top of a marsh wetland at the outflow of Schindler Creek that was prime hitch habitat. This is a beautiful marsh wetland area, and you guys can see the channels being built there. In that postcard, and the intention was to connect the channels so flow could move around the channels and you would get these like flowing channels that would keep the water open, clear, and clean. That didn't happen. That part of the development didn't happen, but there is a storm drain system that connects directly to the channels, and here we have it mapped. So these are all the outflows in the blue, and then the red are the flows that actually go right out to the lake from the Keys. This was advertised as a resort retirement lakefront community. It still is. People move here to Clearlake to be close to fishing, to get lakefront property after working hard all their lives, want to retire here and have beautiful property right on the lake. However, the Keys recently has a history of algae cyno mitigation. Here they are getting some booms and literally shoveling out some of that algae mats from the Keys out to the big lake so then we could get boats through here, and so the smell isn't right in the residents' backyards. Low water levels really promote these unsafe conditions. So imagine you save hard your whole life, you get a retirement home right on the Keys channel, get your boat, and then you have to maneuver this really dangerous ramp to get down to the low water, and it's smelly and has all the algae and cyanobacteria and invasive species of primrose down there. And additionally, the Keys development occurred on important tribal lands. So this project considers cultural considerations and is it planning to involve them in the planning aspect of this. So the goal of the project, this is what this ask is for, is to fund the creation of a plan that's ready for implementation to restore the channels and to initiate that implementation. So we want to restore the channels, and I say it in quotes because there's no restoration because they were artificially built, but we want it to form and function that will be sustainable. And this is to provide wildlife and fish hitch habitat. Simultaneously, this will increase property values and bring economic lift to the area. It'll improve water quality to reduce algae, cyanobacteria, will increase water flows that reduce prevalence of West Nile virus, primrose, invasive species, create stagnant conditions, and vector control has found multiple cases of West Nile virus mosquitoes in the habitat in the Clearlake Keys in the primrose there. And this will simultaneously target invasive species management, particularly primrose and hydrilla. So the last hydrilla find in Clearlake was in the Clearlake Keys, and removing sediment from that area will remove any tubers that remain there and will help, again, lead Clearlake to a sustainable status, particularly when looking at invasive species. And this project will initiate the implementation of sediment removal at specific strategic high impact areas. So this is a lot, and this is not all the tasks we're asking from the Blue Ribbon Committee. This, again, like I said, lots of moving parts, lots of things have to go together to make the Keys revitalized and enhanced. So the first two tasks are going on simultaneously, being led by CDFW and the Keys and partners at Pinecrest. And they're looking at the Schindler Creek outflow, looking at doing, getting plans and permitting for restoration of that outflow. So doing some sediment removal, primrose management, and then native plant restoration. So that Schindler Creek at least can get some flow from the creek down through the center of the channel, and gets a better habitat for hitch to be able to use that. So that's kind of like the first step. Then we're asking for Blue Ribbon Committee funds to develop the entire Keys revitalization plan, engineering plan, design, and permitting, as well as continued native plant restoration, primrose management. There's some partner projects that'll do some upstream stormwater improvements, particularly for ag stormwater. So we're working on implementation grant through USDA and RCS to target some areas for stormwater agriculture improvements. And then, of course, there's maintenance, and there's additional implementation, which we know will take a long time and cost a lot of money. And so we don't know where those sources of funds are coming from, but we have to start off with this plan first. And that's what we're asking for from the Blue Ribbon Committee. This is the proposed budget, and it's 2.3 million is the total. This includes coordination between agencies and projects. Again, a lot of moving parts. Doing a planning feasibility in the concept. So what does it need to take to do the sediment removal correctly, and the restoration in the right areas, and then engineering design, the actual elevations, the designs for that, and then including CEQA permitting, tribal consultation, and then implementation. Again, that 1.1 million is just to start the implementation. We understand that's a drop in the hat for doing some dredging or sediment removal in an area with as many miles as the Keys, but this will start, and we're hoping with the feasibility study will identify areas that are high impact that'll really start to get some flow through there where hitch can use that area again, and that it can bring some flow to the residents' Keys there. And then I'm just quickly showing you the project leveraging. So all these other projects that have been approved or that are in progress really rely on the Keys being revitalized. They are a source and a sink for nutrients. So they collect nutrients and then they release nutrients into the Oaks Arm. So we're not going to see large scale improvements with algae buoys or algae harvesting or hypoenergetic oxygenation if we're not taking care of nutrient banks that are rich in nutrients, such as the Keys channels. And the only way to deal with that is to remove those nutrients and then maintain it for future by reducing the external inputs. And that's what this plan and project is proposing. So last slide. So these are some other projects. I'm just giving you a visual because I talked a lot. So we are planning, we have a planning grant right now that we're executing that's going to be followed up by implementation funds for Natural Resource Conservation Service, Water Quality Initiative implementation funds. And we're going to target these two areas. Ag areas run off on this channel along Highway 20, dump directly into the Keys. There's also ag areas up in the valley that go down Schindler Creek and then flow down in Schindler Creek here. We want to put a sediment basin in this area. And that's going to be the target of those plans for that grant. This is the current planning status grant application that's going in right now for CDFW, both for cutting the green tape initiative and some restoration funds. So they're targeting this area here at Schindler Creek. We also have started discussions. This wetland here is essential. It needs to be acquired and it needs to be under an easement. It needs to be managed and returned to its wetland function so it can act as a wetland that can provide buffer for the Keys here while the dredging projects are going on, and then to continue to be that wetland habitat that is needed in that area. And then just to add a little thing here at County, for the last 2 years, we've been doing a restoration project at Clark's Island with Department of Ag, some other county departments. And we are removing primrose, installing tules, and maintaining this. We want to restore this whole area to be wildlife accessible and accessible for the public to use, and remove invasives and native restoration. And Blue Ribbon Committee, this is where you guys fill in all those areas that aren't already taken up with boxes. So that's where we're asking support to put together a plan for the Keys revitalization, and then to initiate the implementation for that, those areas. And I believe that is it. Thank you for your time and consideration. Again, I'm just presenting. The county is not sponsoring, or we're not sponsoring, we're not managing this project. I'm just presenting on behalf of the Keys, and helping them however we can. So if you have any questions, we have Chris DiVittorio is on, and Ed Legan and Donna, I believe, are here to provide any questions that the committee or anybody else may have. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Let's see, I saw a hand up from Tomasio Anderson first. Tomasio, go ahead, and then Supervisor Crandall.
How was this area pre-development of the Keys? And then, is the development of the Keys, are they, because it's artificial, did they help create these problems because of the way that it's operating, or help accumulate some of these problems? And then what happens if the hitch do get listed? Because I thought we're supposed to be helping. I mean, I guess we are helping the hitch, but we also blocked them in this case, I guess, is what I heard. And then the other part is, for me as tribal, this is really Elam's ancestral territory. So I'd really go with the lead of Elam, within their territory.
So starting at the top, Angela had mentioned that pre-development that was a wetland, and the drainage for Schindler Creek. Obviously, that does not exist anymore and hasn't. Angela, what year were the Keys built?
In the 60s. I mean, they did one half first, and they did the other half. So I think 1964 it started. I'm not 100% sure. I've looked for that data. Maybe someone from the POA can know. And we have reached out to Elam, Dr. Kirshner. We have sent emails asking for his involvement, his perspective, and what we could do for that project too that can enhance areas for Elam. And yeah, so we have done that.
And let's see, the other part of Tomasio's question is the development of the Keys exacerbating current issues associated with pads and hitch in particular.
Hi, this is Ed Legan. I'm the president of the POA. I don't think we've done anything to promote the sediment buildup over time. What we're seeing is ADOT, or not ADOT, Caltrans with their canal systems dumping in the runoffs from the hills above us, and that's the east channel. The other one's Schindler Creek, and I think Angela pointed out that the farmlands up above us, when the water's flowing through Schindler Creek, dumps a tremendous amount of sediment into Schindler Creek, and our proposal is to dredge that back out and allow for the hitch to move up a natural channel again. Today they can't do that.
Great, thank you. All right, let's go next to Supervisor Crandall, and then over to Mike Shaver.
Yes, just wanted to highlight, I did work with the group here on a situation last year, which had to do with the Primrose, and did a tour of that area. And the other thing is that the POA put in their own funding to do it, and looked at their own enhancements in their group to do what they can to address this problem. There's also some county properties that were either collaborated with the state, or and that became an issue too, because the group wanted to help, because they know by helping with that, it's going to help their area or that area specific. And so the other thing about the Primrose is it's prolific, and it causes a problem to the greater part of the lake. And so just letting you know what capacity that was worked on this. It was cannabis funds that helped, was appropriated to help with the prolific and lake problem in the situation. But ideally, this is what needs to happen to clear that area and provide sediment removal. So that's what I know, because we worked on that together, and so I just wanted to highlight that.
Great. Thank you, Supervisor Crandall. Next over to Mike Shaver. Go ahead.
Thanks, Sam. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I guess I have more comments than questions. It's great to see a project that's looking at moving towards restoration implementation. Many of the earlier projects, I think that this looks more of a permanent improvement than some of the other work that would be done with HABs that might be maintaining more than long-term improvements. And I really do want to prioritize the restoration on the grounds projects with the things we do fund. The state and federal agencies have many other programs that fund planning, but the implementation dollars, the on the ground dollars, are really limited. So I really see a attractiveness of this project due to that. I do have a question on the wetland acquisition. It does seem that the project will be dependent on acquiring the wetlands, and there should be some type of, hopefully some type of commitment to involving that wetland property if the design was feasible. And I guess, yes, one other recommendation would be, it's great to have the neighborhood be the lead, because they're the ones that benefit, the ones that can put the most work into it. But I think for a project of this scale for implementing, it'd be good to have an agency or a tribe that is more experienced with the project work and some of the bureaucracy that goes along with grant management. So possibly having a county partner or a tribal partner or a university partner or somebody that's been probably more experienced on these implementation projects. But thanks again for your efforts there in the Keys. It's something I saw in my limnology textbook back 20 years ago. It's a textbook example of how things could be led astray, and hopefully we could put that a little bit more in an eco-friendly manner. Thanks
Great.
again.
All right, last question from Sarah Ryan, and then we need to go ahead and move on to the Clearlake Management Plan development concept. Sarah, please.
Hi, it was just to see if we can get an answer for the thing I put in the chat, which is, if a lot of what has led to the buildup in the Keys is because of the runoff from a gradient. I'm wondering what kind of restoration and mitigation and control plans are going to be put in place, and we have any monitoring to associate with the runoff from the uphill land use, including nutrient results.
So Sarah, Angela did respond to part of your question there in the chat. Does that address at least some of it? Long story short, the county is seeking NWQI implementation funds specifically for targeting that runoff.
Okay, so there's nothing going on yet.
Yeah.
Would the I think what would be what we would want to see is that the funding would actually lead to some specific measures to reduce the amount of runoff and sediment loading.
We do have a plan. The plan is in progress for identifying those projects. So before we do implementation, we have a plan. So the county is doing that because Watershed Protection District, that's our job. So we have that in progress, and that is being developed with our partners at Cal Rural Water Association. So we are targeting those specific areas for the upstream nutrient reduction because those measures should have been in place when that development was going in, even though none of those were required, and it costs a lot more money. So that is something that is going on right now, at least the plans for that, and then the implementation will follow as I had in my task list for those projects.
Do you when do you expect when can you share that plan and the projects that are within it, and when do you expect implementation of it to happen?
So the plan is in the first quarter of being completed. So we have a year to do that plan, and then we can apply for implementation funds. And the way the NWQI works is once you have a plan in place, you're pretty much guaranteed implementation funds. So then it just takes as long as it takes to get the application, implementation, and then the engineering specific for those specific projects and the site. So we're looking, like I said, in the timeline, I have 2024 to 2025 of that project starting.
All right, at this point, we do need to go ahead and move on. And Angela, while we've got you, I think the next several are yours. Clearlake Management Plan Development